All right, my friends, let's talk about harmonic minor, how you can use it in your solos, some really creative ways to sort of add a lot to your solos, as well as its function as a functional harmony, sort of like a composite minor, versus how to use it as a strict harmonic minor. If I have this Aeolian natural minor and I raise the seventh, that's what gives us the harmonic minor, right? It's basically a natural minor with a raised seventh. When we're looking at this a little bit more functionally, right, I take that natural seven, and what that does is it gives me a dominant function to get back to the one chord. That's why we sort of break a little bit of the harmonic minor rules, unless I'm using a dominant function to resolve me back to the one. And also, just to add in there, it does have this really, really cool like step and a half between the flat six and the natural seven, which gives us a very Eastern sort of sound. All of our diatonic modes that we go through the course up until this point, we usually hit this around week 9 out of the 12-week course, is everything is a step or a half step away. And this gives us a nice step and a half, right, minor third gap between those notes, which is really cool. If I am, let's say I'm in a C major, okay, and then I have my dominant 7 chord to bring me back to my C major, right? The tritone in there that I'm using to resolve between the 4 and the 7 in my C major, or the flat 7 and the third of that dominant 5th chord, right? That 4 goes back to the 3, that 7 goes up to the root note, right? What is really cool is when I have, let's say if I'm in C major, whatever my progression tends to be, I can add a deceptive cadence that'll bring me into an A minor, the 6th, the relative minor. The reason is that tritone still resolves, right? This F goes down to an E, which is in my A minor, right? And this B goes up to a C, which is in my A minor, right? But the root note is different, and I have that A in there, that 6 in there, and that's what sort of mellows out from having such a hard line resolve. What's really cool is if I'm playing in Aeolian, I can still get that sound, right, to a degree. Right? But if this is really going to be my tonal center, it's not that hard of a resolve. We want something that is a little bit more functional, right, as a dominant. So we raise that 7 up to a natural 7, and that'll give me my 5 can become a dominant into my 1, or I can even do a natural 7 dominant, or I'm sorry, a natural 7 diminished into my 1, right? That's my other dominant function. One thing to note, really, really cool, is this is the way that I do my 7 chords a lot. I take, if the root is on the 6th string, I take the 5th string out completely, and I'll use my thumb, right? So for my 7th chord, my root, nothing, my flat 7, my 3, and then my 5 of that chord. Nothing on the bottom string there. So that gives me spelling 1, flat 7, 3, 5 of that chord. If I just simply bring my root note up, so we can see that as like a 5 to a 6 if I'm in Aeolian or doing a deceptive cadence in C. I can see that right there, right? But then if I just bring this root note up, it will give me a natural 7 diminished chord, right? Just a simple way. If you take a dominant chord and raise that root, it will turn into a diminished chord. So it's nice to see it visually, is sort of what I'm getting at here. So now what we're saying is, okay, that 7 is going to be flat. We're going to be in natural minor unless we have a dominant function back into the root. Then we're going to raise at 7, which is really cool. Even Smooth by Santana, that first lick, I mean, he hits that flat 7 of that, and then immediately on the following lick, like starts on the natural 7, right? So even in that melody line, we're getting that sort of flat 7 Aeolian sound, and then coming back to the natural 7. So the chords are relatively wild if we stick to harmonic minor, which gives us a lot of free range to just say, like, I can play, a 1, a flat 7, a flat 6, Then when I get to that 5, I mean, I have a chord built off of that flat 7 note, right? And then when I get to my 5, I take my natural 7 to bring us back onto the root. That is what is a little bit more functional. You can also, and what does happen is sometimes you'll have a 5 minor 7 chord, right? Because it's not going to go back to the 1, right, in the progression, and then coming back to the 5 and making it dominant to have a dominant function back to that 1 chord, right? So that's how we're using it. Generally, what these chords look like is like your 1 minor or your 1 minor 7. I mean, right there, we're already breaking out of harmonic minor, but a 1 minor 7, right? A 2 half diminished, if you want to do that. Your flat 3 major 7, your 4 minor 7. Now your 5, if we're using functional, right? Functional and dominant functions. Your 5 7, your flat 6 major 7, and then your natural 7 diminished. But you can have your flat 7. It's not usually mentioned if you're looking at this sort of composite minor, functional harmony, harmonic minor. The flat 7 isn't always mentioned in there, but like we said, you can use it. So that flat 7, 7, and then your natural 7 diminished back into the 1. That's what it'll look like, right? You have a lot of stuff to work with there, you know? And I think it makes sense, and it's really nice to use it that way, especially for a songwriter, you know, and some that doesn't want to create a very diminished and harmonic minor sounding chord progression, you know, and create that much color with it. Anyway, if I were to strictly stay within harmonic minor, the chords are, if I'm not just doing triads, right, I'm going to be doing 7s, right? The chords are a little bit more different. I have a minor major, which is a minor triad with a major 7, right? Because I'm not bringing that natural 7 down. I'm keeping it there. So already we're off to a cool but very strange sound, right? The 2 is wild because I could still have a 2 half diminished, right? Oop, there we go. I can still have a 2 half diminished, right? But I can also have a 2 fully diminished, right? My flat 3 major 7, and then my 4 minor 7, right? Now the 4 chord also, you can do a 4 half diminished because the 5 of that 4 minor 7 is the root note, and because I have a natural 7, I can bring it down a half step and give myself a half diminished, and then I can also give myself a 4 fully diminished because this is my flat 3 of my harmonic minor scale, and I can bring that down to a 2. So I can also have a 4 fully diminished. I can have that 5 7 or a 5 augmented 7, right? So the way that I have that voiced here is a 1 augmented 5th, flat 7 and 3rd. I'm not gonna play that bottom string because that's where my natural 5th is. Or if I wanted to, I don't really know about doubling up an augmented 5th in a voicing, but certainly is a sound, you know. One way that I would voice it, I really do like that chord. So that 5 can be a 7 or your augmented 7. Or 6, there's some options here. I have a 6 major 7, which is going to sound really nice and really sweet harmonically. And then because the 3rd is my root note of the scale, I can bring that down to the natural 7. Now I have a major minor. So flat 6 major minor 7. And then I can also have a flat 6 diminished, which is really nice. And then my 7, my natural 7 diminished. Back to my 1 or my 1 major minor. A lot there. A lot of wild sounds. I mean, listen, there are a lot of people that make some really, really cool stuff with that. You know, it just depends on the sound that you want, you know, and how crazy you want to get, or experimenting. You know, I really like the idea of throwing it into a quick section of a song, or like a bridge, or you know, if you're a little bit more on the instrumental side, right? Even if you have vocals, but maybe like in a jam band sort of scenario, you know, taking a sort of an instrumental bridge and building it off of some of the stuff in this harmonic minor. But I mean, that's even cool, doing like some, you know, whole tone. You know, whole tone could be functional, for songwriting too, right? I think a really cool way to use a whole tone would be if you had a dreamy lyric and throwing a nice little whole tone or something up there. So give it a shot. Work, those are the chord options that you have, which is really cool to have that many options of chords. You know what I mean? It's not just 7 options of chords, but you're gonna see it like, the solo Sweet Child of Mine, even that what is it? Right, he goes right for that sort of natural 7 when it goes to the 5th chord. But then there are times during that solo where he's just staying in Aeolian, for the most part, or avoiding the 7 altogether. I just wanted to arm you with some of that stuff. It's a lot, right? There's a lot there. If you are an intermediate guitar player, you're looking to really break that intermediate plateau, learn how to speak through your guitar, right? Music is a language. The guitar is just the voice that we're speaking or singing that language through. Bridge the gap between your creative ideas in which we're able to play. There's a link below to schedule a free call with me. Jump on a free call and we will get you there in our 12-week results guaranteed fretboard fluency course.